So today we have the brand new Godox V100. I got it for the Sony system. I have remotes for Nikon, Sony, Leica, the X3 remote. So we're going to be trying that with all of them. My hope and pray is that the TTL is better with the Sony system. Now, I did pull it out because I got this from the house, and I had my Nikon there, so I did pull it out with the X3 and tried it, and it actually seemed like decent TTL. So I'm a little excited about that. But a lot of people say they don't have an issue with TTL with Nikon, but I really want to see how it does with Sony because it's been horrible with Sony. Like at one distance, it'll work okay. And then if you get closer, it's terrible. If you get further away, it's even worse. I'm hoping this thing does the trick. Now, I'm going to show it to you, obviously. I'm not going to go through the specs or anything like that because there's a ton of good channels to do that. I want to show you real world use. That's the thing for me is like what it works shooting. I don't care about the specs and everything. If it's 100 watts, whatever. My big concern is, I was hand holding it when I was using the Nikon, and every time I touched the screen, it would change. So there is a lock mechanism on here. But let me go through that really quick. I'll try to do a close-up, view of this and show you that. But, I'm not good at this kind of stuff. There's a lot of people that do the whole camera down kind of stuff. I don't, but I'm going to try just for you. But then we're going to get right into the shoot and see how this thing does on camera. So I really wanted to give you a close-up look at this. I'm not going to go through specs and so forth, but in hand, this feels very premium compared to other Godox flashes that I've had. It is well made. It has a little heft to it. I do like the touchscreen. I love the look of the touchscreen. For me, I handhold flashes all the time, and when I was handholding this, I was changing the settings all the time just by touching it. So, my first thing was to find the lock screen. Now, if I'm shooting in manual mode, I change settings continually while I'm shooting, which is a problem for this. So for me, this is more of an on-camera flash or, now don't get me wrong, you can lock it, but I have to slide down the menu, press lock, and then unlock it by 2 seconds. Now, if I'm changing features or power on the fly, that's going to be an issue. I wish the lock mechanism was right on the screen. But anyway, again, it's stiff. It feels great. It's a premium flash. Let's get into the shoot and see how we do with it. My only concern is that touchscreen and the lock mechanism. Before I get started, I just wanted to show you one other item that I got. It's not for me though, it's for my clients. So many of my clients set their phones, just lean them on everything because I don't have a tripod for them. So I thought this would be a really nice addition to the studio to allow them to use one of these and not have to look for places to prop up their phone. The really nice thing about this one, this is Kraftgeek. I hope you can see that. Anyway, it has a remote on it, which, maybe they'll use it, maybe they won't, who knows. It's a nice little feature. It's just magnetic, goes in the leg here. But here's the cool part about this. First off, it has this mechanism for the phones. The reason I like this is because not everybody has that magnet on their phone, like the iPhone. Some don't have it, some have older phones, some have Androids. So this allows all the phones to go in. The other feature is this, which I really love. That's it. One click, the LEDs come out. It's set up, ready to go. I love that feature, especially if I'm on location and I want to give them something to use. I can just throw this in my bag because it's small enough to do that. It's lightweight. It won't take up much space in your bag and won't add much weight, but it really is a benefit to your clients. So I'll leave the link below for this because I really love this one. For this alone, I think it's fantastic. So I got something for you to use in the studio.
Okay.
Because I was thinking about you. Look at this. Watch this.
Is that for my phone to sit on?
Yes.
Oh, you're amazing.
Isn't that great?
I love you so much.
You're going to shoot bird dog, doesn't it?
Yeah, whichever way. You're too sweet.
So just
I love you.
type it in there and twist. That will be really great for me.
Yes, you're so sweet. Okay, how do you say to do it? It's not gonna do it coffee.
Yeah. Isn't that good?
Yeah. That's awesome.
So I started with on camera because I really wanted to see how this thing was going to do in TTL, and I'm impressed. I- I'm blown away actually because I've never had a Godox on camera flash work correctly in TTL, and this thing is working correctly. Um, and like I'm using the 28 to 75 to start because I wanted to zoom in and zoom out. Because that usually screws up the TTL with Godox, but it didn't. No matter where I went, if I was closer, if I was further, the TTL was pretty darn accurate. ISO 250th, 1/200th of a second, f2.8, and it's working great. Now, I'm going to drop down the ISO because I really want to stress this thing out a little bit. And I expect it to be a little darker, and I'm not going to use compensation because I want you to see what what it's doing at, at zero. Um, and it's a little darker with the ISO 50, 1/250 the second f2.8. But I'm doing this on purpose because I want you to see what it is at a camera, and what this thing can do. And you'll notice like it's a little hotter in the center. And I'm presuming they do this to bump up that power a little bit without having to do too many changes in the flash itself, without going into technical stuff because I'm not great at technical stuff with that, with flashes and so forth. But needless to say, it's working. And it's working so well that I figured I got to try this off camera because I planned on taking this thing around the building, but with the TTL being that good right out of the box, I'm thinking I got to try this off camera. I'm going to use the X3. I'm updated on firmware and everything on both of these now, and I'm kind of speechless because I can't believe this thing is doing this well in TTL mode. That's all I got to say. I really can't. So the first photo, right out of the box here, 1/250 the second, f2.8, ISO 80. And this is going through that softbox with double diffusion. And this is the images I'm getting in TTL with a Godox on a Sony camera. I can't stress this enough. I'm a little excited because I'm impressed that much with this. I didn't expect this at all. I expected to throw this on camera and go, okay, well, yes, it has more power. Yes, it has a touch screen, but no, the TTL still sucks. But I can honestly say I don't care about any of the other stuff. I care about the TTL actually working on this flash. And honestly, this is the first Godox on-camera flash that is working in TTL mode for me. It's never happened before. So I switched over to the 135 lens. I just want to push this thing through all the paces and all the different ways I would be using it, with all the different lenses. I just want to see how good it does. Now, when I switched over from the 28 to 75, which was the Tamron, over to the Sony lenses, I think I'm getting a little bit better accuracy with the Sony lens. Um, you know, just looking at them coming out of camera like this, I'm thinking, okay, yes. Now, these aren't straight out of camera. I did touch up her face, and I did color correct a little bit. The color correction, because I was in shade white balance instead of flash white balance, which was my fault. I just didn't pay attention. Now, I'm using the V-flats continually. I can't push these enough. If you don't have V-flats or something like them, even if it's a black sheet and white sheet, to subtract light and to add light, definitely try that because it works really well. Now, I'm going to show you when I change the settings. That's the only time I'm going to show them on the screen. That last one was 1/250th, 1.8 at 80 ISO. Anyway, I just want to show you that as I'm going through, and I'm putting this light through every pace I can possibly imagine. Now here I'm right above her head. You can see the hot spot on her forehead, even though she's not looking up. If you looked up, it would have been a little bit better. But I pulled it forward just a little bit to feather it, which gives it a lot more even light, and it's not such a hot spot on her forehead. Again, TTL. Forgive me if I keep saying that, but you have to admit that's impressive for a Godox flash. Now, a lot of people say they had no problem with the Godox flashes on Nikon, and I did try this on the Nikon. It worked fine. And I just did a couple shots with it. But for this to work in Sony this well, I'm really happy. And through a softbox, through the X3 transmitter, I'm impressed. Now, like here, this is a little dark. It's not absolutely positively perfect every single time, but it's so close to where it needs to be. I'm very happy with it. And, I'm going to take this flat. Excuse me. I'm going to take this flash a lot now, because it is working this well. Don't get me wrong, the Sonys are still just a little bit better, and the color bounce is just a slight bit better. But having this battery power and this many flashes, in a single battery versus the AA's is a benefit. Now, the touchscreen, every time, even when I moved it on the softbox, you have to lock the screen, and that's going to be an issue for me if I'm hand holding. Now, I'm going to start using the bracket more, so it's not going to be that big of an issue anymore because I'm not going to be touching the flash as much. But if you are a handheld flash person, that's going to be bothersome for you because you do have to lock it. Otherwise, you just brush against that screen and it's going to change a setting, or put it into a different mode. Every time I move that flash in the softbox, I somehow took it off of receiver mode and it would stop working. So that's my only issue with this flash. As good as the touchscreen is, it's bright, you can see it really well. I do wish they had that lock screen just right on the lock screen or right on the screen itself, so I don't have to go into a menu to change it to lock and then hold it 2 seconds to unlock it. If it was just one tap to lock and one tap to unlock, I think, or a second hold to unlock, I think it would be better. Now I pulled out the black backdrop because, and you using a black backdrop and light thing like this, it usually screws up the TTL. It doesn't. Like, it worked perfectly fine. Now I'm losing her on the back, because of the black, and she has darker hair. I need a rim light, so I'm going to throw a rim light on here. Now, the rim light itself, I'm going to set on manual because you can't use TTL on a rim light. It just won't work. It screws up too much. I'm keeping the main light on the TTL, and I'll put the rim light on manual mode. I'm starting out at 1/8 power with a grid because I had the grid on there, so I figured I'm going to need that 1/8 power with this is the 80-100 that I'm using, and it's way too much. And the other thing is it screws up the main light. The main light's seen that flash come through, so it's dropping down quite a bit. I'm still going to use TTL because I want to see what I can do with it. So I dropped that rim light down to 1/256th of a second. It's not, triggering the main light to say, hey, there's too much light. So that's working now. And it worked just fine. But normally I would definitely recommend, absolutely manual power on both lights in these type of situations, because if you're using 2 lights or 3 lights, you want to go to manual, because TTL does not play well with other lights coming into the scene. Anyway, this is the last outfit of the shoot. I just had so much fun with this here. The light wasn't correctly positioned, so I have to switch that light just a little bit to get more light on her. And everything is light, so it went down to dark just a little bit, but I don't want to change it. I just want to move the light. Again, I'm testing the TTL on this. So rather than changing it, adding a plus 1 or 0.1 or 0.3 or 0.7, I'm just going to move the light, and it brings it up a lot more, and it's not like tricking the TTL because of the light scene. Anyway, I had a blast with this. This was a great shoot. I am really, really impressed with the V100. I highly, highly recommend it. Again, the only issue I have is that touchscreen and having to lock it. But if you're using it on camera or off camera when you're not going to be touching it, it won't matter whatsoever. But if you are a handheld shooter, it will be an issue. Anyway, I appreciate you watching. I'm sorry this was so long, but I really enjoyed this and I really wanted to share it.
Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them below.